play basketball.
3,000! History with an exclamation point!
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied. The Yankees are champions of baseball.
All right. Hello, everybody. Hello, Yankees fans. Welcome to the show. We are going to discuss a pitcher who I've been excited about more and more as the regular season or as the baseball season approaches. This was probably, in terms of bringing in new players, probably their biggest move of the offseason. And in no way was this a big splash relative to the rest of the league. And, it was definitely a quiet winter for the Yankees. This also, at the same time, should not be another move that is tossed aside as Cashman dumpster diving and just picking up some random. Because when the Yankees do go out and get players like this, players that fall into that label from the fan base, it's not just because they're stupid. It's not because they don't know what they're doing. And so in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit more because we did discuss them for about 15 minutes when they initially made the trade. But we're going to talk a little bit more in this show about the Yankees acquiring Ryan Weathers. If you remember, maybe it's probably about a month ago or a little less than a month ago by now, the Yankees traded away 4 prospects for Ryan Weathers. I want to say it was like mid-January, early January. And, it was 4 prospects that you may have heard of some of them, but it was more the quantity of prospects than the quality. I don't think any Yankees fan with a brain should be outraged over moving these 4 prospects. I don't remember at the time. I think I might have said that they traded away pitching prospects, which is untrue. I think it was position players. I think one of them was an outfielder, Dylan Lewis, but regardless, don't care. You're trying to win a championship. And Ryan Weathers is coming in here to be one of those guys who you can hope bridges the gap until the cavalry comes. And I'm just getting more into this dude as I find out more about him. And I've been looking him up recently on Twitter and seeing some interviews with him. And he just seems like, first of all, he seems very happy to be here. He seems like he's very excited to be a Yankee. Obviously, he's got the family ties, but listening to some of his interviews, like he's recently been on Max Manus's podcast. He has recently been on Foul Territory, very recently. And it just seems like a dude who loves pitching, and he's my kind of guy because as a baseball fan, as somebody who grew up an athlete, God forbid, I am not an athlete anymore. But when I was young and ripe and in my prime before I turned the big 3-0, I was a pitcher growing up, and I did not want to know my pitch count. I did not want anybody bothering me. I just wanted to go out there and I wanted to pitch. And then when I'm off the field in practice training, then I'm coachable. But I was never, this was, I'm old now. So this was back in my day when we didn't have the data and the resources, the tech. And so I am very much into Ryan Weathers because from listening to him in some of these clips, this dude is all about the analytics. He's all about how the hell can I improve with the resources that are now given to us. He is a pitching guru, and I think I'm going to love that. That's why I'm like a big David Cohn fan because, like, as a pitching guy, you love this kind of stuff. It's like, whoa, we didn't have this when we were younger. Here I am talking to like I'm a boomer, I'm 30. But like, this is cool. And listening to him, he is so analytically inclined. It's really interesting stuff. I would advise you to check out some of those podcasts I mentioned. But just really interesting stuff that I got from him. And he's talking about his pitch mix and how he's going to approach certain things. And it's really cool. So in this episode, I want to talk more about him, just bouncing off what he said and just trying to figure out how to untap this kid because the talent's there. He's obviously he's had an inconsistent major league career. But we're talking about somebody who is, I mean, he's a big lefty. He's a big dude. This is a former top draft pick. I mean, he was probably the best high school pitcher of all time. I know that graphic was going around of his numbers in high school. ERA started with a 0, but was a top prospect in San Diego's system and has now made the big leagues for a bit. And he's still just 26 years old. He doesn't turn 27 until next offseason. He is only 5 years into his big league career. And although he's had an up and down track record, performance and health have been problems, but I think something's there. He's got a lifetime 4.93 ERA. Excuse me. His debut came in 2020 when he jumped from A-ball to the bigs, and they threw him in the middle of a postseason against the Dodgers. That was his debut. He goes an inning and a third scoreless in LA. Struggled the next season. His first big league season, 2021, struggled in the bigs. He was sent back down. Struggled when he was sent back down in AAA 2022. Just not great. Was recalled midway through 2023. Traded to the Marlins. Struggled initially with the Marlins, but has found something in these last 2 seasons. He has also, at the same time, been dealing with injuries these last couple of seasons. He's had lat injuries. He's had a flexor injury. I think he even got hit in the head. So the injuries have been a part of his resume, but when he's been out there, he's put together good performance. And if you combine his last 2 years, you're talking about 125 innings where he's posted a 3.74 ERA, a 121 whip, a 7% walk rate, a 22% K rate, and a 239 batting average against. So those numbers there are solid. But what I really found noticeable is that if you take his numbers from the last 2 seasons and you compare them to what he looked like in the first 3 seasons, he is about 5% better in K rate. He is 52 points better in batting average, 2.5% better in walk rate. So he's 32 points better in whip, and he's 2.14 runs better in ERA. So those are the 5 categories that he's significantly taking an uptick in a positive way. And so you're thinking, like, how did he make such a big jump in some of these areas? What's changed? Well, I think what's been noticeable to me in the last 2 years is he's used a lot less four seam. When I looked up his StatCast data, he's used less four seam and he's leaned more into his secondaries. And I think that's going to fit the Yankees, because anybody who's watched the Yankees as close as I have and as close as any other diehard fan has, that their philosophy has been, let's diversify your pitch mix. Let's use less fastball and let's go more breaking and off speed, right? And he's somebody who has done that the last couple of years and has found more success. He used to be 54% four seam. That was what he was in his first 3 big league seasons. That's gone all the way down to 41% four seam in his last 2 years. And the four seam fastball is a good pitch. And as good as it does profile, we'll talk more about that in a little bit, it has gotten hit often, and it has gotten hit hard. High exit velocities on it. A lot of home runs have come off the four-seamer. And if you look at the slash lines and the expected slash lines, batting averages, slugs, it's not great. A lot of that has been location. He leaves it middle of the plate a little too much, and obviously you can't get away with that against good left-handed hitters. And it's also easier to pick up early on Ryan Weathers, because something that he has been up and down with in his career, his arm slot is not consistent enough between his four seam and his off speed. It's easy to tell when the four seamer is coming when you see the angle that it's coming out of. You're able to tip his pitches that way. So I think that's also been a factor in why his four seam's not been as successful. But he has, at the same time, he has increased the velocity on it the last 2 seasons pretty noticeably, which I think helps the rest of his mix play up. I think since he's heavier off speed recently, I think those pitches are helping limit damage contact overall. He has a really good changeup. The changeup is his best pitch. It's the pitch that he's most confident in. He said that. It's a pitch that's a traditional, like a split change. It's more of a split changeup grip on it, because you watch this pitch, it's got very sharp downward break. Last 2 years in terms of downward break on the changeup, he's top third in the league. It gets moderate spin on it. It gets some chase. And it's a pitch he favors against righties, clearly, because he's a lefty, but he's not afraid to go to lefties with it either, because it's a pitch that has more drop and it's less fade. Has good expected slash lines on it, so even if some of the results aren't always there, some of that is luck. And it's a pitch that gets a lot of swing and miss. It gets a lot of swing and miss, and then when hitters are making contact on it, some weak contact, some ground ball contact. So it's not a pitch that gets banged around a lot. And then he's got the sweeper, that he's added in. And he has talked about this as well, how he needs to have a little more confidence in the breaking ball so he can throw, just more confidence to throw it in certain counts, 3-ball counts, throw it in the zone more. That's something he needs to work on. And I think, maybe he doesn't always have that confidence because the sweeper isn't, it's a newer pitch for him, and it's not the changeup. It doesn't have the break, it doesn't have the spin. It's pretty average in those aspects. But obviously he uses it well, because when he does throw that pitch, it gets a lot of swing and miss. It gets a lot of chase. It gets a lot of soft contact, and it's got excellent batting averages and slugging percentages, and so are the expected numbers on it. So that's his primary pitch mix right there. He's four seam, changeup, sweeper, and he'll mix in the sinker, the two seam. But I want to talk more about those pitches, the tertiary pitches, the two seam and the slider, which is something we haven't even mentioned yet. His slider is very different from his sweeper. If you watch his slider from his earlier days and whenever he decides to throw it, it's not often, but when he does throw it, and the data backs this up, it's more of a gyro-like slider, where he calls it a bullet slider. And the two-seamer, the sinker, that's been an up and down pitch with him over the years too. But the slider has this gyro-like neutral break on it, where it's more of a downward pitch. It's more a pitch that, as a lefty, he can go to a righty with, because it doesn't get that typical horizontal break on it. It's going to go more down. Sometimes he'll even move arm side. So he says he's been working on the slider because he's already down in camp with some of the guys. He says he's been working on this pitch, just so he can avoid the barrel against righties with. So that would be an interesting thing to see him flash more against right-handed hitters, because righties are going to, you're going to see more righties than lefties. If he could start throwing that more and mix that in, that's an interesting pitch to play with. And then the two-seam fastball is something that, again, he doesn't always throw it, but when he does, he gets good results. It gets weak contact. It gets ground balls. It's a pitch that sits 95 miles an hour with good spin. It has a lot of arm side action on it. So I'm thinking, with the two-seamer, does he work with this pitch more under Matt Blake to try and get more sink on it so that he can differentiate his two-seamer from his four-seamer, which already has a lot of run? as a lefty, he naturally gets run on his pitches. So just to try and, get a different shape, work with Matt Blake, because the Yankees have worked with, their pitching guys, their pitching staff, Max Fried, Carlos Rodon. Those are guys who have worked with the Yankees and their sinkers, right? They've tweaked the usage on it. They've tweaked the grip on it. They've thrown those one-seam sinkers instead of the traditional two-seam grip on it, and it's paid off a lot for them against left-handed bats. So I think going to that two-seamer more, if you were Ryan Weathers, that would help him open the zone for his four-seamer and his sweeper and get more ground ball and weak contact overall, because lefties crush the four-seam fastball, right? Again, his 2+ pitches will always remain the four-seamer and the changeup. But the two-seamer is not far away from being a plus pitch. And I think it's a very versatile pitch. It's my favorite pitch in baseball. But it gives him a good tunnel combination, because you think about it, when he's facing left-handed bats, it's a good hard to soft west to east tunnel combination with a two-seam and sweeper. That's a side-to-side plane you can mess with a lefty with. You throw the two-seamer, you play the slider off or the sweeper off it. You throw the sweeper, you play the two-seamer off it. Two-seam, jam him in on the hands, slider off the plate. That's a really tough combo to hit. And then you go to the other side of the plate, you got right-handed bats. Another good hard to soft north to south tunnel combination you can do here is the four-seam changeup, right? And that's honestly good for both righties and lefty, because his changeup, again, it doesn't fade that much. It's more of a split change. But he gets good separation between the split change and the four-seamer in terms of velocity. So you combine that with a similar tunnel when it's coming at you, and then the changeup drops off and you throw the fastball at the letters. And that is a tough sequence to pick up. Right. And you can also, again, tunnel in that bullet slider, that gyro slider, because of its drop that it gets. So there's a lot to do here with him. I think for him to improve against righties, he has talked about locating the four-seamer on the outer third of the plate to establish that lane for his off-speed stuff. So, he can maybe backdoor the sweeper, or he can use the bullet slider north to south, or he can go north to south with a changeup. Because the four-seamer, despite the results, plays well. It profiles well, I should say. It's 97 miles an hour. It's got good spin. It gets a lot of that arm side action on it, which again is why you want the two-seamer to get a little more sink so you can differentiate. But man, he's got the stuff. He's got the mix, and I'm excited. It's just, can he stay healthy? And because of the injuries and because of the little workload in innings, doesn't have a ton of innings under his belt. I do wonder if the Yankees are going to try and take it easy with him, and maybe if they plan on using him down the stretch, there's a fake DL stint in there like they usually like to do. I could see him in a bullpen role later in the season, especially if guys are coming back. If Rodon comes back when he's expected sometime in May, if Cole's back maybe sometime in the summer, July, you probably slide him in there to the bullpen, But things can go right, things can go wrong. Maybe Heel underperforms. Maybe Schlittler goes to the pen. And, he's the bottom line with Ryan Weathers, and I think this is where a lot of Yankees fans get confused. He's not here to make starts in the postseason. He's here to be a bridge to those two guys, to Cole and Rodon. He's making arbitration money for 3 years. You have him under control. This is not supposed to be a guy who you're relying on. But right now, it's Fried, it's Cam Schlittler, it's Will Warren, it's Luis Heel, and it's Ryan Weathers, right, in whatever order you want. But I think the kid is the perfect Matt Blake pitching lab experiment. I'll say it again. Big lefty with great stuff. Low walk rates. That's another thing. Potential for high K rates. Just excellent upside. 26-year-old, high velocity guy, high whiff rates, which is why I think he can become a strikeout guy, even if he's not that now. And you have him under team control for a while. You can do some things here, man. There's a lot to unlock, which is why I think there are some decent projections on him. Now, I went over some of the projections. The one on Baseball Reference, Marcel's, are projecting Ryan Weathers to throw 86 innings, strike out 81 batters, and post a 4.19 ERA. Zips has projected him to throw 88 innings, strike out 78 batters, and post a 4.48 ERA. But the Steamer projections is something that I would consider a win. And that is 128 innings, 127 strikeouts, and a 3.88 ERA. If that's what you get for Ryan Weathers this year, considering the value of the contract, I mean, that's a win. That's huge. Now, again, stuff, all that, sometimes you just got to throw that away and think, the mental game. Can this kid pitch in New York City? Because we've had guys with, similarly great stuff. Some guys who've come here with good fastballs and great break and movement on their pitches and, this untapped potential. You could get even more. Like Sonny Gray is a perfect example of that. Great stuff. Came here, mentally just couldn't handle it. Now he's in Beantown. But I don't think this is going to be the case with Ryan Weathers. I think Ryan Weathers is familiar with New York. His dad played in New York City. He seems like he's excited to be here. We'll see. But I also think it's going to benefit him being around guys like Max Fried and guys like Carlos Rodon, two other left-handed pitchers that he can learn a lot from. These are two all-star pitchers in the game. So I'm excited for Ryan. Again, I would advise anybody who hasn't listened to his interviews. He was on a couple of podcasts, Max Manis and the Foul Territory podcast. Definitely some great insight. If you're a pitching guru like me, you'll be interested in it. And if you're not, if not, I mean, you'll learn a lot. You really will. But I'm thrilled. I'm excited. Ryan Weathers seems like he's going to be a good fit here. And let me know what you think. That's it. I just wanted to touch on him some more for about 23 minutes here. We're going to go watch the Winter Olympics. And, I'm excited for the World Baseball Classic. I got my Team Italia hat. I ordered this the other day. And then the you know what? This is a funny story I'll share before we leave. I ordered Aaron Judge's Team USA jersey because the jerseys came out the night the rosters dropped. So I ordered it that night. I had some free credit bonus, so I used that to order the jersey. I was so just in a rush. I didn't want it to sell out. I kind of just did it really quick, panic order, and shit was triple XL, and I was like, oh, I can't have that. So I canceled it the next morning. But the thing is, it was coming on February 18th. That's soon. Today's the 7th. But I canceled the next morning because I couldn't have a triple XL. I'm not that much of a fat fuck. And then I reorder it, for free, using my credit bonus. And, normal size. Now it's not coming until March 17th. So that's after the classic ends. So hopefully the U.S. wins. So I can win something. I can wear something victorious, but that sucks. But I did, I have the Italia hat on, but I did order the Judge white Team USA, like the home ones. So I'm excited for that to come. Hopefully it comes sooner. Sometimes they do come sooner, hopefully. But USA, they're stacked. I think the only roster that can really compete with them on paper is the DR, who arguably are even better. But there are some good teams. Mexico's got a squad, Venezuela, It's unfortunate what went on with Puerto Rico, but we'll see. I hope Italy can make some kind of run. They got some good names, but I've got heritage there, so that's why I root for them. But we'll see. I appreciate you all tuning in. Ryan Weathers, New York Yankee. We'll see what happens. Appreciate it, guys. See you soon. Later. Hey guys, thank you for listening to BD4. Be sure to follow us on social media, subscribe to us on YouTube, and give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next time.